Do you ever feel, Spencer?
No.
Podcast over. Do you ever feel that our overlords are saturating the market with way too much entertainment and shows and movies and books and everything, so people will just be constantly in a fantasy world and just ignore all the problems of society?
I feel like they don't do that enough. Because I still notice things that I would like not to notice.
Yeah, but you notice them, but you don't do anything about them. See, the more I learn about the history of our forefathers, not the American forefathers, just around the world, every time there was a giant revolution and everybody just got their heads chopped off, it was because people just got sick of it. And we now have so much entertainment that even though people were sick of it, they just kind of like, I'll just watch a movie instead. Like, it's a way to keep people just, like, more calm, I think.
Do I overthrow the government or watch all 9 episodes or seasons of The Office in a row?
Yeah, see, that's what it is. It's like, overthrow the government, ruin my life, or just watch, Becker again. Did you ever watch Becker?
I've seen some Becker.
Nobody watched Becker on purpose.
Yeah.
And anybody that's over or under the age of like 30 probably doesn't even know what that is. Even if you are over 30, you probably don't know what that is. It's a Ted Danson show. I only know it because it used to be on at very late at night when I had insomnia real bad, and it would just be on TV, and I'd watch it, and I hated it, but I watched it anyway.
Well, I always liked the bits where he was being a dick to the patients.
Yeah.
That always got a little chuckle out of me. It's hard to pass up Ted Danson just being a dick.
True. That is true.
He's good at that.
Well, I think it's just his natural character is to be a dick. So that's about all I had. I didn't have much information. I've been writing, been reading stuff. That's it. About you, same?
Reading.
I noticed writing didn't come up first.
Yeah. Well, no, because I actually started to do like a little bit of writing, and then like on Monday I like tweaked my back doing the most like lamest thing ever, and like now it's kind of back to kind of like a normal to where it just doesn't kind of like hurt,
Yeah. Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's
So it was kind of hard to get into like a good kind of like a position to where like it didn't like hurt too much to where I could also.
You just have the nagging pain that makes you not want to write. Sometimes you don't want to write as is. You're just not in the mood. So when your back is just nagging, you can't bend over to like you just don't want to do it. I see that I can see how that happens. But yeah. So that's where we are at in our lives, tweaking our backs, doing stupid shit. I was brushing my teeth too vigorously.
Yeah, it's just ow.
I went to the bathroom and my movement was too hard.
Well, that was the kind of thing, like, because it was all lower back. So for like 2 days, like the poops were like I just had to wait until like they were ready. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes when you gotta take a dump. But you're like, I've took some dump. There's more dump. I'm gonna just try to get it out there. But like I couldn't. I couldn't, use the muscles. So it's just like, all right, I'm done, and I'll just have to come back in like 10 minutes when the rinse is ready. What happened over there?
The dog climbed under the mixer table and was fucking bumping it around, so I don't know if that came up on here or not. So I grabbed him to like stop him from doing that, and it turns out he has like some kind of fucking bone or something really gross that I picked up. My bare hand was all wet and sticky, and I tossed that as now he's eating on my foot. Oh, dude. But yeah, then I came back and my focus went back to you, and you were talking about poop, and I don't know how that transition came about so quickly. Like within seconds, it was from back pain to poop. So I can't wait to play this back so I can get that full. I'm not going to ask you to repeat that. I'm just going to assume that it was you hurt your back pooping or your back hurts from pooping. And that's all we need to know.
You should know that we're not ever too far away from me turning into poop.
No, it's usually just right around the corner. Right around the bend. You are listening. You know what? I want to change it up. You have entered the DPW zone. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I am your host. I'm changing it up. I'm your hostess.
Hostess with the mostest?
We could do that in 2022. I'm your hostess, Caleb James. I was trying to make it feminine. I can't. Kayla James. There we go. Kayla James. That's gonna offend people. So yeah, I'm the guy that hosts this show again, always as forever till the day I fucking die, and then even probably beyond that. With me today, Spencer, the Jamaican Jazzerciser Church. Clean one.
Yes.
Clean one.
Healthy as well.
I could have went. Now Jamaica.
I know where you could have went.
But see, Jamaica's known for their jerk chicken.
Yeah.
So I could have did something with the jerk.
Yeah.
And it could have been a double entendre. But I did. I didn't want to go that route.
I just thought you were going to throw something else in front of the size instead of jazzercising.
Jizzercising. That would have been a good one. Jizzerciser.
Yeah. Was
it you and I who partook in a video about a jizz of mayonnaise and it was in a factory? And I think it was the last time you were here.
Yes.
It was like a factory setting there making sandwiches or some shit. And it was like, and then we had a jizz of mayonnaise. And they're like, is that a measurement?
Yeah.
It was just a splurt of mayonnaise. Today's episode is one of my own creation. You might enjoy this, Spencer, because you don't have to do much.
Yay, my favorite.
I forget what brought this on, but
I guess you're going to be reading a whole bunch of stuff.
Yes.
Yay.
But it's stuff I wrote.
Okay.
This is different ways to write a scene. So what I have done here, I've concocted a very simple scene, a little bit of backstory for the scene. It could be a cop, a detective, whatever. A man who could be one of those things shows up onto what would appear to be a car accident, maybe.
Just Johnny Law,
yeah. So this guy comes up to what seems to be a car accident. And literally, it's only 2 sentences how this starts. But then what I have done is, because it's not even a whole scene, it's just this one part of a scene. And then what I've done is written out different ways you could write this simple scene.
And how it could go into different paths.
And then, but what I think you'll enjoy is I did a bonus thing after I wrote some of these down, because I don't think this is going to take very long. But we could do a little bit of a deep dive into some of these. I also wrote the same scene from the perspective of some famous authors throughout history. Just some of the ones I've read. And I tried to, again, I wrote all these, so I'm just trying to mimic those authors.
Yeah, like that kind of style.
But your boy Stephen King's on the list. So I just want to see if I nailed it. Because I don't read as much as Stephen King as you do, but I want to see if I could do homage to his writing style. I was going to do Neil Gaiman. That was the one I could not think of how to do.
Oh, yeah, that'd be rough. I don't know.
But I think I nailed everyone else. So anyway, we'll start off. So, again, guy comes up to a car accident scene, right? I'm just making up these titles for these. I don't know if these would actually be how you would say that, this is, but whatever. So, just the literal scene. He noticed a set of tire marks burnt into the pavement. A nearby guardrail was gnarled. Very basic. That would be probably your starting writer would write it like that.
I like gnarled.
Gnarled. I use that in every one, by the way. That's the one consistency here. He noticed a set of tire marks burned into the pavement. A nearby guardrail was gnarled. So 2 sentences, very basic structure. You could use that in your work just to, just add it to the story. But once you see some of these, you might think, oh yeah, that's how I could doll it up. So for better story progression, it's still the same thing, but this is just to kind of move the story a little, like just a little bit of a tweak to the flow. He noticed a set of tire marks burnt into the pavement, leading off the road to a gnarled guardrail. So now it's 1 sentence, and all that does is it connects it in a way. So now you're like, oh yeah, the gnarled guardrail is actually directly related to those tire marks. So there's probably a car accident is what you assume. The first one, you could assume that, but it wasn't definite.
It could have been 2 separate things.
Right. Yeah, it could have just been a happenstance that there was tire marks and then the guardrail. This puts it together, so yeah, that's what it is. Now this one, this is probably a bad example. I just kind of slapped this together. This is the same scenario with simile. And this is where, because I try to break it down, because I do a metaphor one after, so I try to break it down why I think metaphor could be superior to simile, but you'll have to be the judge of this. He noticed a set of tire marks that zigzagged along the asphalt like a drunken man's gait, ending at a guardrail as gnarled as the roots of an ancient tree. So the 2 similes there are the drunken man's gait and the gnarled tree roots of an ancient tree. So the drunken man's gait, I think, could work because that can almost imply that maybe the person driving the car was drunk. Like that'll put that seed in the reader's head. Now, the one that's garbage is the gnarled roots of an ancient tree. I just couldn't think of anything else on the spot. And but gnarled roots, like you have metal, now you have a tree, like nature. I didn't think that was a good simile, but just to show you what it, how you could do that sentence with similes. I'm going to do, this one is the metaphorical one, so I want you to kind of judge which one you would probably steer towards if you were writing the scene. He noticed the remnants of tragedy played along the asphalt in streaks of burnt rubber and broken dreams. The gnarled guardrail at their end was a memory of last night's deadly tango. Now, the obvious metaphor here is the deadly tango, because a car and a guardrail aren't actually dancing, but that's like, it kind of still will put the picture in the reader's head of, it's like they combined in a certain way. Obviously, in this one,
They
it
were
was
bumping and grinding.
a deadly tango, though, because it was, possibly fatal here.
I kind of like that one better, especially as like an opening of a story, because it just gives it a little bit more oomph, and like of like the how we always talking about trying to hook or draw the reader in as soon as possible. I feel like that one does a better job of that.
Well,
now if that was just like
through the whole story,
if it was just a random paragraph of a story, the simile would have probably been fine, other than switching the root thing. You might would have to come like with a better one than that. But
what I personally do in my writing is I combine the I think most writers probably do this, is I combine the metaphors and the similes.
Yeah.
Play around with all. You want to have them all in your arsenal. You want to have all those tools in your bag. But just going back to this, so he noticed the remnants of tragedy. That's a very, I wouldn't say broader, but it's a better way, I think, of just stating that there's tire marks.
Well, what I like about that is like how you were talking about before, like with the drunkenly, like the zigzags, like the planting the seeds of the guy being drunk. That kind of plants the seeds of like
something bad happened.
Well, not even that, but like that the police officer, whoever it is, it's like a seasoned person. It's somebody who's been there for a while.
He's able to recognize.
And knows it's not somebody just out of the academy. Like, it gives that, like I said, that season or that worn, like, veteran kind of feel to the character.
Right. And then when we extend this, so tragedy played along the asphalt in streaks of burnt rubber and broken dreams. Now, the burnt rubber is just the tire. The broken dreams part, that could be another metaphor. Well, that goes with the tragedy. So broken dreams, that makes you think, was there a life lost? Did somebody commit suicide? Was somebody drunk and they just had an accident? Like, what exactly happened? But it does put it in your head, well, something bad happened, something, broken dreams. That's never a good thing. Now, this one, you're not going to like.
Okay.
I can already tell you that. Well, I can't judge. You might like it, but I try to, overdo it on purpose here. This would be closer to what you'd probably get when you start reading, like, some fucking fancy, highfalutin literary fiction. Not saying I write highfalutin literary fiction by any means, but more complex metaphor. Death's dance didn't escape his notice. Its rhythm had stained the asphalt with 2 long streaks of obsidian and brimstone. Only the gnarled guardrail at the tire mark's end told of the night's fatal ballet. Now, that tells the exact same thing as the other one, but it's more.
Yeah.
It's just more dense. So you still have the dance. Instead of the tango, you're doing the night's fatal ballet. So I still like that, because now you still get the exact same imagery. And then the death's dance, obviously that's a metaphor because you're not actually dancing with death, but that's a cool way to, think of that. But it's just this whole middle part. So death's rhythm had stayed in the asphalt. Like that's the rhythm there. So now you're kind of thinking, well, what exactly does that mean? It's a little obtuse. And then 2 long streaks of obsidian and brimstone. That's where it goes to dog shit, because, obsidian is black. Brimstone makes you think of hell, like fire and brimstone. But if you're reading that and it doesn't elaborate on that, like, who's going to say that's tire marks? You probably wouldn't think tire marks right away. You'd have to read deeper into it.
You know what that would be? That's perfect for like the first opening block of a Ghost Rider comic.
Yeah.
That's what that's for. That.
Well, again, though, depending on the story that unfolds, maybe that is what you want to do. Is, you have the obsidian and brimstone, you're like, oh shit. I would still probably throw rubber in there over obsidian just because you still need to make it tire. It has
and
to.
Also, too, like, how many people off the top of their head, like, obsidian's gonna really...
Yeah, not everybody knows what obsidian is. And also, like, I'm putting obsidian as the color black, but it's also like a rock or something.
Yeah.
So, which then that makes that redundant because, rock and brimstone, they're both rock. Like, but I do like the death's dance didn't escape his notice. I think that's a better way. Then I also like he noticed the remnants of tragedy. Yeah. Like, both of those could work.
I didn't really like the dance of the ballet thing.
The end, the Night's Fatal Ballet.
Yeah, I don't
Were you more the Deadly Tango fan?
Maybe, But again, like I just like you said the remnants, like the whatever from a couple ones ago.
Now, in my own writing, I probably wouldn't use either of those because that's like a little. Usually, I don't try to add more than. My rule of thumb is try not to use more. Well, one, don't use more than one kind of metaphor in your paragraph. So, if you're describing how blue the ocean is by comparing it to, like, as a metaphor for the sky or whatever, like, you don't want to switch it up to something else. Same with, like, your similes. If you're having a simile about the ocean was angry, like an old man sending his suit back, you wouldn't go with the next one talking about, something completely different. Like, you have to be more consistent with those. But you could definitely go, like a Thomas Wolfe or something, just too metaphor heavy, where it's just the reader gets bogged down and is like, what the fuck am I reading now? That's one thing I've experienced in like some Alan Moore's fiction I'll read, and we're like, what is happening exactly? The best.
Well, if you think about it, that's kind of like some of the issues we had with Blood Meridian. Was like
a lot of the metaphor you couldn't even really point out because you weren't sure that was a metaphor. Like, you're just like so confused. The next one, which is probably, I would imagine most people wouldn't use, and I wouldn't use this, and I'm not even sure I did this justice because, like I said, I don't use this. This would be a lyrical way to write out the scene. I'm not talking as in songs, just more as if you read the writing, especially like out loud, almost like a poetic kind of style. He noticed the tire marks etched into the road. Screeching, squealing tires had screamed deep into the night. Nightmares nestled in the knotted, gnarled guardrail, revealing an aftermath not of this waking world. So that kind of just gives you more of, like, if you didn't read that out loud, you kind of wouldn't. I mean, you'd still get it, but it wouldn't be the same. Like,
it definitely had like a Deaf Poet Jam kind of feel to it.
Yeah, it's just like, and you can really do that. And I've read some work where that's all right, but sometimes that gets overdone too. And what I didn't do is I didn't write this like a poetic rhyme type or just regular poetic type, which is, again, very metaphor heavy. Because that's another thing with poems. A lot of them are so metaphor heavy that you don't understand what's going on. You have to deep read. And that's more just me being stupid. Like me just not being, real keen on heavy metaphors in people's work. That doesn't mean it's bad. But so out of those, before I go on to the author ones, out of those, which one, the regular metaphor one?
Probably, yeah.
Of course, you could do like I said, if you combine the simile one with the metaphor one, you'd probably have a winner. And the more complex metaphor, like, that wasn't too deep. It's just like mainly the obsidian and brimstone was probably too heavy, and that ending, like you said, the Knight's Fatal Ballet, that could come off kind of corny, probably.
Those are just not my style,
right?
Like, I mean, like if I read it, I probably wouldn't be like, but like it just as me personally writing, I probably wouldn't go in that in that direction.
But all of those I feel are way better than he noticed a set of tire marks burned into the pavement. A nearby guardrail was gnarled. That's what a lot of our submissions we get are that I have to reject. It's just very basic sentence. It's like, even the second option, he noticed a set of tire marks burned into the pavement leading off the road to a gnarled guardrail. That's more of a mouthful, but I just feel like that is still better pace-wise. Like, when you read that, you go, okay, we're moving along. But when you go sentence, like, I feel like it drags, and you're just like, I don't give a fuck anymore. This one's going to be hard to read, and you're not going to... If Ashley's listening to this, he'll appreciate this one. David Foster Wallace wrote this scene. Well, Caleb, as David Foster Wallace, wrote this scene.
I was gonna say, before you get into these, is one of these gonna be a what's his name? Old man from the sea, or in the sea.
Ernest Hemingway?
Yeah.
No, I felt that was gonna be too boring.
Well, I just was wondering because you were talking about like the very first thing you wrote, how it was just very like concise and like kind of short. And, like, I just know from you talking about him that he seemed like he always leaned that way.
See, the thing with Hemingway is you couldn't break down a scene like that because it probably would read like that if you just broke down a single part. It's just the metaphor used throughout that actually makes it a different story almost. So if you're reading just a random Hemingway scene, it probably would read very close to that first one. And you'd be like, that's fucking not that good.
But when you read it in a whole.
Yeah, when you read it in a whole, you're like, oh, it's... like, the writing's simplistic, but the actual metaphors and the messaging and the themes are very heavy. That is art I have not seen replicated by many people, being able to be so simplistic but having so much meaning in your work. So David Foster Wallace, what does he have to say about the man coming on the scene, Spencer?
Probably a lot of poop.
This is a run-on sentence. Because it's like again a block.
I would say, how long is it? It's gonna take like 15 minutes to read.
No, it's because it's only based off those 2 short sentences. But Foster Wallace doing it, it's gonna be a block. In his numerous observations, one revelation made itself immediately apparent in the form of 2 parallel lines of oxidized rubber that had heated and cooled rapidly so as to congeal into blackened strips onto a surface that typically contains about 80% by weight of carbon, around 10% hydrogen, up to 6% sulfur, small amounts of oxygen and nitrogen, and trace amounts of metals such as iron, nickel, and vanadium, which solidly affixed a steel guiding system along its outer edges, which due to a yet-to-be disseminated accident had been gnarled beyond all recognition.
That, from what I heard when you guys talking about the podcast and what you read, like the experts you read from the different stories, that sounds like it could be him.
Now, if it was actually him, he would have did the chemical. I did the chemical makeup, but he would have did the formula of the asphalt. That's what that was, by the way, the chemical, and then the guiding system. That's the guardrail.
Yeah.
But he fucking would say guiding system because he probably would say transportation guiding system. Like, just fuck off. That reminds me of his instead of saying seatbelt, it was safety restraint system or some dumb shit. This one I had fun. James Joyce.
Oh, how much farts in it?
No farts.
Oh.
So this is, I haven't read Ulysses yet, so I can't judge too much, but just
say, is it written in like an accent?
I'll try to read it, but I can't do an accent, especially a James Joyce accent. To all into one, God has bestowed upon this man the answer marked in the gray, yes, the gray road, yes. Willy marks of long black on the long gray with scree all the way to the guidy gnarled and metallic grays and silver and blacken with the scree of an ending most disastrous. To this man God had revealed it all. To all mankind it was but a blink in the nothingness of human existence.
Did Joyce ever, you think he just ever had like a stutter problem that he like it manifested in his writing?
No, because I listened to him reading Finnegan's Wake. Some of it, and he didn't have he had a great Irish accent.
Just because like he's just like he repeats words, and then we'll go to a word, and then come back to a word.
It's purposeful because he does like almost like linguistic acrobatics. I would say he purposely does it so it's apparently his work is better read out loud for reasons I said earlier on. I forget what that was. The lyrical one. It's supposed to. Like, a lot of the stuff he focuses on, especially in, like, Finnegan's Wake and Ulysses, was more about the way you say something and the way the word sounds, and he, like, combined words to make up new words, and he did all this shit. So that's instead of guardrail, we had guidy, you know? And then, like, instead of tire marks, we had wheelie marks. Like, that was just me making up random shit that he might have tried to make up. This one you might like, too. Haruki Murakami.
Ooh.
You have to. You haven't read like his novels, but I think you got enough taste of them that you might understand. You might get this. Supple saxophone notes from Round Midnight by the Thelonious Monk Quartet pumped through the speakers of his 2016 Mazda MX-5 as he arrived on the scene. The first thing he noticed was a set of jet black tire marks trailing off down the road. The color reminded him of the seaweed band wrapped around the eel nigiri sitting in his refrigerator. Following the marks with his eyes, he landed upon a gnarled guardrail. The nigiri would have to wait. So you got the Thelonious Monk saxophone, you got the car.
The only thing you missed was
cat and jazz. Well, I got the jazz.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only thing you missed was the cat and maybe some spaghetti.
I was gonna do spaghetti, but I went with seaweed because that's the only thing I could think of. The seaweed wrap around the sushi's like a blackish color. All right, here's the Stephen King one. I'll have to depend on you to see if this is close to accurate because it's kind of hard because he doesn't write in like a complex style or anything that's real specific, but you always know it's Stephen King when you read it. He noticed the tire marks straight away. Who could miss them? They streaked on down the road in black fury. Whoever made them must have had a one-way ticket to hell and didn't want to be late. Or maybe it was hell that had been coming for them. By the looks of that gnarled guardrail, they found hell one way or another, and there would be no coming back.
That's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, does that feel like a Stephen King?
Yeah.
I was proud of that. I thought that was a pretty good representation of the King man.
Especially, I like the guardrail being like the one-way ticket to hell, and
he
all
always
that.
he always has those additions to his stuff. It's never straightforward. He always adds all that. There's personal touches of his author voice in there. This one I think you might like a lot. It was very hard to write this one. I don't know if am able to do the man justice, but H.P. Lovecraft. This is the last one, by the way.
Oh, see, I was wondering if you were gonna do a Tolkien one, or I was trying to think of some other authors you've been reading recently that you could have tried to.
I thought about Tolkien, but just the situation doesn't go with like the fantasy elements. I could have wrote it in a fantasy style, but I just didn't think that would be entertaining enough.
It could have been wheel tracks in the mud or something.
Wheel tracks. What seemed an endless road of unimaginable horror stretched on in front of him. On the road, eating away at his mind with a sick madness. 2 lines devoid of all light. 2 black lines, darker and more terrifying than any creature from the deepest depths of the ocean, loomed like cosmic juggernauts. But the real horror lay just ahead. Steel folded and twisted and gnarled as if elder tentacles had reshaped them in their image to be worshipped by man as an evil, horrific idol. An ancient geometry no man could imagine or define with the human tongue. It was too much for any one man to endure, leaving him blubbering in madness until the bitter end.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why that would
just
leave
the
him
unimaginable.
I don't know why that would leave him blubbering into madness, but it's
everyone in the stories are always blubbering into madness at the slightest inconvenience. Oh, I left the window open all night. Now it's cold in here. Blubbering madness.
These are the most weak-minded people ever.
Oh, a pigeon shit on my shoulder. Blubbering madness. They have such weak constitutions back then. Like Victor Frankenstein always fainting and getting sick. Like they just had such weak constitutions back then. They just always went into blubbering madness at any opportunity. It's like, oh fuck, I got the runs, blubbering madness. I had some bad porridge and I got diarrhea, blubbering madness. I tripped and scraped my knee. Guess what happened?
Blubbering madness.
I'm in the nut house. I'm in Arkham. Blubbering madness. It's always blubbering. Gross. You know what? I did miss an opportunity. I didn't even think of it. I should have did a Poe one.
Oh, yeah.
Like an Edgar Allan Poe one would have been good. Maybe a Mark Twain, too. It was actually a lot of fun just writing just like one scene in different authors' voices. I like that.
That would be if we ever do the Drunken Pen Writing How to Write book.
We could do that. But like the main thing I really liked from that is like that exercise just shows you how many different ways, especially with the author ones, how many different ways you could tell the exact same scene. You know, the message here is you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into doing something just one way. And if your work isn't selling or you're not getting picked up anywhere, you're all getting rejected a lot, maybe go back and look how you're writing your scenes and just see like, how can I not just spice it up, but how can I just change this and make it, more entertaining? And we've talked a lot on this podcast about pacing, like the flow of your story, the importance of an author's voice. And those are just all things you have to build. But I think experimenting just with like simple scenes like that and just writing them and really sitting like, okay, I want this one just to be all metaphor. I want this one to be all simile. Just focus on that. And then eventually, if you do that enough, you're going to find one that kind of gels with you or a combination. I would recommend doing combinations too. You'll find something that gels with you and then you'll be like, oh, am I starting to nail my, specific writing style? And then when you find something that's comfortable and you enjoy doing that reads well, you might have just got what you're looking for. Again, just all practice too. Like
definitely a good exercise. Like if you're not filling whatever story you're working on, doing something like this is like we said, it's a good practice.
And it sparks your creativity.
Yeah, it sparks creativity. You might actually be able to come up with something that you can use, like, oh, I like that. I can use that in the story.
Well, I got a good bit of writing done right after I finished doing that just because like that put me in the mood. Because that is a great, especially when you say, I have to write these 2 sentences, but make it mostly metaphor, or I have to write these 2 sentences and make it lyrical, a way I never write, or I have to write these 2 sentences, but make it sound erotic. Like when you put yourself in a little box like that, you have no choice but to be creative if you're going to succeed. And yeah, I mean, it might not be a good sentence, good scene, but just to succeed, I think you have to try. You have to work on it.
I think you really missed an opportunity and not doing an erotica one.
An erotic. Ooh, how could we do erotic? Let's do one right here.
I was gonna say you might have to come with one and like tag that on at the after credit scene.
Let's see if I can do it off the top of the head. So, what's the literal one? He noticed a set of tire marks burned into the pavement. A nearby guardrail was gnarled. He noticed a set of long, hard tire marks burnt into the pavement. Burnt like his hot, I don't know. What would be hot? I think you got to use the word hot there. And then nearby guardrail was
sizzle.
Ooh, the sizzling tire marks. There we go. long, sizzling tire marks.
Thrusted upon the guardrail.
Well, thrusted upon the guardrail, where it was gnarled into a ball of intimacy. I don't know. But yeah, that'd be a fun one to actually try to do. Again, I don't write erotic fiction, so I'm not very good at that, but I think that'd be fun. So Spencer, are you going to go home and try to write in different authors' voices?
Not specifically, no, probably not.
Here's a follow-up question. Do you think that you could pinpoint modern... I mean, we both haven't read a lot of modern authors, but like if you had to read their style, do you think somebody would be able to mimic their style like that? I'm wondering. Like, do you think like a J.K. Rowling even, you'd be able to mimic her style? I don't know. Without just doing a Harry Potter. Like if I did 2 sentences like that in that scene in J.K. Rowling's voice, I'm not sure. I never read her, so I don't know. But I don't know if it would be specific enough that somebody could point that out and be, oh, that sounds like J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of authors now that don't have that specific style that you could, like a Daniel Lewski, you could, maybe a Chuck Palahniuk, Cormac McCarthy. Obviously, I should have did that. That would have been a good one. That would have been
still
very
be
depressing.
reading it by now.
Yeah, that'd be very depressing. Well, it would be hard to read because I wouldn't know where the fucking punctuation was. He stared off and. Well, that almost reads like the fucking H.P. Lovecraft one. He stares off into the endless void of the, is kind of similar, just more simple, I guess. But yeah, but I can't think of modern authors who their style could really be replicated because I feel like their styles aren't that original. And I think that just goes with the modern, we broke this down many times on here now, the 3 to 4 sentence paragraph structure that a lot of publishers look for whatever reason, in the YA style of writing, which all kind of seems uniform to me.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just an old fuddy-duddy, but
yeah, YA does definitely seem like there's.
I know there's outliers, by the way. Like I'm not saying there's not literary outliers in that genre. It's just for the most part, what people pick up just seems to all be kind of the same.
Well, maybe that's just because we only see what of the YA stuff that gets made into like movies and stuff like that. You know
that's what I'm saying. So that's why there's outliers. Like that's very possible. We're just biased because we don't even read that genre really. But I mean, you could say that with comic book writers too. There's a lot of comic book writers where if you read their comic and didn't check to see who wrote it, you wouldn't know who wrote it.
Unfortunately, it used to not be that way. But yeah, it's
a Frank Miller book, an Alan Moore book, a Neil Gaiman book. Even now, like a Jeff Lemire book. If you read enough of that author's work, that's that author, even if you don't actually. I mean, Frank Miller. No, I would say his writing style still stands out. I mean, I get that you get a bit of like the artwork with like the Sin City style, but I feel like his writing style still stands out. But
so angry.
Yeah, like O'Barr, who did The Crow, James O'Barr, he has a very specific poetic type of style that you could probably point out. Again, I'm just saying with comics it'd be easier if you read a lot of the work because you don't get enough writing room. There's not a lot of real estate to really pinpoint just right. Oh, I read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, so now I know his style. Probably not. But if you read Watchmen, obviously you'd be able to point his style out in anything you read now. If I'll ask you specifically this one. If you were to mimic a Joe Hill scene, do you think someone would be able to tell if that was Joe Hill or Stephen King? Are they that different? Because I haven't read Joe Hill yet, so other than that Tall Grass story that him and Stephen King both wrote, and I didn't know who wrote either part. So
it's weird because like I feel like I could maybe tell the difference on some of it.
Does he use that same kind of authorial cadence as King used, like I said, with like the one-way trip to hell?
Kinda, yeah.
He does
but like I don't know. It's just something. It's hard to explain like his work, and also too. But he has better endings.
Yeah, he's a good ending.
He doesn't get his endings from his dad, so that's also a nice bonus. But yeah, we're gonna have to get you on some Joe Hill here soon.
Well, you keep making me read Stephen King books. I never get around to Hill. Yeah. You could say, hey, Caleb, why don't you read some Joe Hill instead of Stephen King for this stupid bet we have? That's neither here nor there. I should have did an Arthur Conan Doyle one. It would have been a mystery.
Yeah.
I didn't want these to go real long. But unless you have anything to add, I don't know if we really have much more to elaborate on.
No.
I will reiterate that I think it's important to mess around. And I would say, as a fun exercise, every once in a while, just try mimicking your favorite authors. Just try writing in their voice to see if you can. You might not have to, nail it, but just see if you can. Like the Stephen King one, like that example. I just like that. If I read that and said that was a Stephen King story, Spencer, you'd be like, yeah, I could probably see that. Like I like that you could maybe do that.
It's like doing an impression.
Yeah, and if you get really good at that, maybe you can try more difficult authors. authors that would like the H.P. Lovecraft one. I don't feel like that was anywhere near justice. I just use all the unimaginable horror, just the words.
Just kind of hit like the stereotypes.
Yeah, it uses a stereotypical vocabulary. But if you actually read a H.P. Lovecraft story, it's like fucking way more complex than that. But again, I wasn't trying to devote too much time to this. 20 minutes was more than enough just writing the same fucking scene over and over. After that, I was like, all right, I'm burnt out. I would like to say that in the future, when I get some novels out, I would like readers to be able to point out my style if they could. Like, oh, that reads like a Caleb. Whether that's good or bad doesn't matter. Just the fact that they could point out that it's my work, that would make me very happy. And that's what I'm focusing on now. But in the future, who knows? Maybe I'll have it so hardened and good and fucking everybody knows it's me. I don't have to worry about that. I can only focus on story. But we thank you for listening. And what is it that we do here? Twitter. We're on Twitter at Drunk Pen Writing. The website, more important, drunkenpenwriting.com. You can read our fiction and see if you can pinpoint our styles on there. At Drunken Pen Writing on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to be so kind, give us 500 stars on iTunes and all that stuff. Because, again, I keep forgetting I always forget for 300 episodes now. I forget to ask that. But I keep listening to these. I had to find some new podcasts to listen to. I got caught up on all my old ones. And all the new ones, that's all they do is ask for fucking reviews and stuff. So that's what we'll do now. We'll beg for the likes and subscriptions. So anyway, we thank you for listening and enjoy the space music. And until next time, smell you later.